So, you interested in painting some botanicals? Want a few pointers? Leave it to me. Welcome back to the Mind of Watercolor, everybody. Glad you could be with me today. Everybody give it up for my buddy here, Reese. Wow, dude. Rocking the Star Wars. He's been geeking out about the new movie. Don't really blame him. We're going to talk about botanical illustration today. I'm going to do a leaf in sort of that style. I'm going to give you a few pointers about how to do ultra realism. Botanical illustration is generally very hyper-realistic, or at least very scientifically realistic, part of the tradition, and that tradition has really had a resurgence lately. Some great new artists have been coming along, like animation, that have added interest to that style. So we're going to take a look at it, talk a little bit about it, and it's something you might want to try. So let's get right to it. Well, what I'm going to be painting today is a leaf like one of these. I'm not going to copy them exactly. These both have a couple characteristics each which I like, and I'm going to kind of compose my own leaf out of these. I'm going to do it in a botanical style, and that's a very hyper-realistic style traditionally, and that's what I'm going to do. And it usually has no background. I'm going to add a couple shadows. I took this photograph of one of them so I could visualize these shadows back here as if it were laying on a surface, and I think I may incorporate some of those. And I just loved the color, where it sort of retained some of the green, but it was partially turning brown. I may simplify that a little. These are a bit complex, but I really like that look. So I'll give you some pointers and some thoughts of what I'm doing along the way. Now, usually a realistic piece like this takes a while, and it takes a lot of layering in the way I do it. So you may see some jumps in the timeline to kind of cut through the really repetitive processes. But we'll see how it goes. So as we get into the process here, what I have is a simple line drawing. I've done the line drawing with watercolor pencil. I started out with kind of a reddish brown watercolor pencil, and it was just going back and strengthening the dark brown edges. So as I start to layer in color, I go from lightest to darkest. This leaf has a very yellow-orange cast overall, so that's where I'm starting. I really considered doing a grisaille or a value underdrawing, underpainting, but just decided to go for it and just start layering color. Now, since I know some of you are going to ask, the brush I'm using here is a DaVinci Cosmotop Spin. This is a new brush for me, and I heard good things about them and wanted to try them. And I'm very impressed. It was just a super brush. This is a cat's tongue or an oval wash. Just really nice moisture control. Very fine point on this, for this size of a cat's tongue. I'm starting to layer in some of the greens. One of the things that really struck me about this leaf was its transitional form and color. We have autumn is really getting into full swing around here in South Carolina. But this is a red oak, in the red oak family. I actually believe it's a black oak, which is part of the red oak, the family of red oaks. There's several red oaks. And when the leaves turn, they usually turn to a brown, red-brown. But you can catch some leaves as they're first falling in these transitional colors, where it's like a kaleidoscope of orange, yellow, browns, red browns, and green, even some of the original green. And it's just sort of caught that leaf in this state. And I was just fascinated by it and thought it would be really great to document that state, and it'd be an interesting painting. There's less light on that side of the leaf, so those leaves on that right side kind of curl up and towards you, and they're going to be darker. Plus they were just more brown on the right side. So I'm starting to glaze in and layer in the brown tones. The watercolor pencil outline that I did just serves as a nice roadmap. I also penciled in the main veins going through, which helped me subdivide the leaf as I add these washes. This is also a DaVinci Cosmotop spin brush. These are synthetic brushes meant to imitate sable. And I tell you, I just do not see the need for sable brushes anymore. This was such an incredible synthetic, just like my favorite silver brush Black Velvet, which I love so much. This one here could easily become a favorite too. This is also an oval wash, just a smaller one. Working on 140-pound arches watercolor block. Hot press, which is a very smooth surface. It's great for detail. This a long series basically of glazed washes layering over each other. Nothing more complicated than that when you're doing extreme realistic detail. It's very important that your colors are transparent. I use almost completely transparent or semi-transparent hues. You'll find them delineated on the tubes of artist grade paint when you buy them. You just don't get the same luminosity with semi-opaque or opaque, which a lot of browns are, so I tend to mix the browns. I pick browns that are either transparent or semi-transparent and mix them. I can't recall off the top of my head what the colors are, but I stay away from the opaque and semi-opaque browns. They just tend to more quickly muddy up, and they kill your luminosity almost completely in a glazing situation where you're layering a lot of color. I'm going to try to give you a half and half on this video. The first half was pretty much real time, and then as I finish adding additional glazes, I'm going to speed it up because the process is the same. It's repetitive. It's just adding more layers. And you work it till you're happy. That's a very satisfying process. It's kind of like coloring, and everybody is so into the coloring trend right now. I love coloring too. I've got a couple coloring books. And once you get your drawing down and you know where you're gonna put everything, this is just coloring. And it's layering. Deepening tones, and here I'm deepening the shadows and the browns. And as that contrast gets deeper and more rich, it just gets more and more exciting. The colors I'm using for the browns are red iron oxide. I'm actually using some orange, some sepia when I want to kill or tone down the redness a little bit. Indian yellow for the predominantly yellow areas. I may mix Indian yellow with the orange depending. Now if you're really interested in the botanical art style and tradition, this is a website you might want to check out. It's the American Society of Botanical Artists, and it will really get you excited about that genre and see what some of the current artists working in that style are doing today. There's really been a resurgence in this genre, as I've mentioned before, and I think you might like to check this out, even if you're not, interested in doing this kind of art all the time. But maybe occasionally. There's just some great examples there. I'll also put the link down in the description. Now here I'm just doing a detail pass. I'm adding some little blemishes and spots. I love the way the ends of the lobes, I think they call those points teeth, were tinged with brown and almost looked like they were burned. It's kind of a neat thing to render. I'm adding some vein details. You could add some of those details with colored pencil or watercolor pencil. I wanted to make this look like it was laying on a surface, so I added these shadows from the photograph I took, using that as my reference. Give it a little more three-dimensionality. That's not typical in the botanical tradition, but you know, today people are using the scientific botanical illustration style as a jumping off point for their own form of art. And I just like adding shadows. And I think we're just about going to call this done. I may go back and add some acorns on a little branch that I still have with some buds on it. And we'll probably add some lettering, so this looks a little more like a traditional botanical. Well, that's it, and that is a great way to get into botanical illustration. It's usually pretty easy. Things like leaves are really easy to draw. It's a great way to practice skills, you know. The idea is to make everything very realistic, so all the parts and pieces are clearly identifiable. And it's just kind of neat to take that and make an art form out of it. That's what I love about the botanical style. So thanks for tuning in, everyone. Hope you'll give me a thumbs up if this was a help to you. Subscribe if you want to see more, and we'll see you next time.